Thank you. Before I even start, there's an error in my slides, but it's a happy error. Maybe I can get there. Oh, thank you. That was too obvious. So you'll notice on this slide at the very bottom, it says FDA 510K clearance pending. We did receive notification that we are cleared. So I am beyond thrilled with the fact that we are now through that process, but then terrified of the commercialization, of course, that follows. And one of the earlier conversations or panels talked about the many instances of near death. So we're entering that next instance in early commercialization. But when someone has a tonic-clonic seizure, also known as a grand mal seizure, most people recognize the rhythmic jerking activity of the seizure, but what happens next is even more important, probably. So there can be injury from a fall because post-seizure, there's a paralytic effect, and so you lose the ability to stand. If you're standing and you'll fall over. You can also end up face down and unable to correct yourself, and so unable to breathe, potentially. And this is where the genesis of EpiWatch came from. So this is a continuous seizure monitor. We're an AI ML-based algorithm running on the Apple Watch. And what we do is detect and alert for seizures and provide a continuous objective monitoring of tonic-clonic seizures. And this was developed by two epileptologists at Johns Hopkins. And one of the key drivers was sudden death from epilepsy. So this is not something that people typically hear about, know about, even people living with epilepsy. Sudden death from epilepsy, however, is the #2 cause of death due to chronic neurologic conditions, only second to stroke. So this is a significant issue, and there really aren't a lot of good options out in the marketplace at present. So with EpiWatch, you turn it on. I've got it running on my Apple Watch right now. And this is monitoring for tonic-clonic seizures. That's our first indication. We also have an STTR grant for additional seizures, focal motor being the next group. But when this watch detects, based on the Apple Watch sensors, what it believes are tonic-clonic seizures, it will send an alert to everyone you've set up in your care network, and that can be via phone, text, email, or any and all of the above, and let them know it looks like a seizure is happening. So then, once that alert goes out, you've got the ability to act and act quickly, and that's what's critical with managing seizures. So if, for example, one of our key early populations will be the pediatric population, kids tend to be in school. The school knows that the child has epilepsy, but the nurse or the administrator in the office holds the rescue meds because they are controlled substances. They're not in the classroom with that kid. So if that child has a seizure and that teacher has, is set up so that the nurse is alerted, then you can get the rescue med to the child in a quick and efficient manner. And the rescue meds for epilepsy have evolved enormously. So they're nasal sprays. They used to be this horrendous rectal gel that nobody ever really wanted to use. But now there's a lot of good options that can be delivered quickly and can shut down a seizure. So that's important. The other key is that every individual who has epilepsy or has been diagnosed with seizures does have a seizure action plan. So that action plan can also be loaded in the health component of the Apple Watch. So EMS, for example, knows to access that on your watch or on your phone. The #1 issue with young adults with epilepsy when they have a seizure in public and aren't with somebody who knows them and knows that they have epilepsy, the initial assumption is there's some drug issue going on. So if you've got, and the watch actually physically alarms on the person, so it's clear something is going on, this individual has seizures. So that's extraordinarily valuable for that population in particular. So here's where we are in our timeline, and the exciting news that this one too is incorrect. But we started, in December of 23 into January of 24, completed the clinical trial, 5 sites, 3 of which are pediatric sites, and then prepared the results in November, put through the submission to FDA, and then achieved FDA clearance, 510K, in March. On the funding side, we have been angel funded primarily to date. And in Q1 are finishing up our angel round that really funds us through FDA submission and commercialization prep. We are in the process of reaching out, and that's why I'm here talking to groups to do a seed round of about $3 million to fund our early commercialization. And we will do a limited market launch. We really want to understand the utilization, not only by the individuals and their families, but by clinicians. It has gone through FDA as a prescription only, so we want to understand what motivates clinicians to prescribe, how they want to be able to communicate this to their patient population, and then also importantly, how do they want to receive that seizure data back? So it's a lot of information, and if we just throw it at them, they definitely don't want to know every seizure that happens when it happens, but they do want a summary. So really understanding how that can work best in the workflow and be the most valuable. So what's so different, what's so easy, what's so usable about the EpiWatch is that it's simple. So having sold robots and stents and many things over the years, sometimes we get caught up in this, wow, it's not that complex, is that an issue? But it's not. In this case, it's so easy to use, so customer driven. You download it from the Apple Store, and once that prescription is activated, it's ready to go. And then it's got that provision of real-world data for the family, for the clinicians, for other caregivers. The current standard of care right now for seizure summaries is patient-reported or caregiver-reported. So we know that's highly inaccurate. It's almost impossible to ask someone who just experienced a seizure to please record that accurately. And it's probably underreported as well. There is another product on the market. It's a purpose-built. And so in comparison, EpiWatch and the Empatica are at about the same seizure detection, 98%. But the key difference here is that we are at a false alarm rate of 0.08, so much, much lower than the competitive product on the marketplace. That's important for durability of wear, for keeping it on and continuing to use it. And then we will be a single subscription, or that's our intent, at launch at about $20 a month. Currently, it's only reimbursed in Minnesota, so we're working with advocacy and reimbursement to change that. But meanwhile, there are multiple groups that will fund that subscription and even the purchase of an Apple Watch if individuals with epilepsy are unable to afford it. As I mentioned, our core group that we are going after is that pediatric young adult. Interestingly, what also emerged in discussions is the 75-plus fragile senior audience is one where their kids will pay for that subscription to know what's going on with them as well. We think the market opportunity, this is tonic-clonic seizures only, it's about $400 in the US, close to $1 billion if it's US, Europe, and Australia, and 6.2 billion globally. I will not take you through our financials in my remaining minute, but we've put a couple of scenarios together. Our founders are Nathan Krohn and Greg Krause, well-known epileptologists from Hopkins. Nathan's also very involved in brain-computer interface, and I've already introduced myself. And these are the groups that we're partnered with. Multiple clinical sites, level 4 epilepsy centers, the epilepsy advocacy groups, and then the SUDEP prevention groups on the bottom, who are very, very motivated to put something on the market. We do have multiple potential exit strategies, also the secondary reason that I'm here at the conference. So there's a number of different options to exit ultimately. And I want to end with this slide. This is Rose, who passed away. And if you notice, her dad, at her funeral said, if I knew she had a seizure, I would have gone there sooner, I would have checked, just very anguished. But look at Rose, she was a runner. She ran high school cross country. She's already wearing an Apple Watch in this picture, which kills me because we were not yet available, but had we been available, it would have been easy to load on that Apple Watch and potentially had a very different outcome. Thank you.